Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to my channel if you're new. Today we'll talk about how to tell the difference between a flower spike and a root on Phalaenopsis orchids, which are the most popular orchids on the market right now. So first, let's start with location. Let's presume that this is the front of the orchid, that is the back, and the leaves are located on the sides of the orchid. Flower spikes will always be produced on the sides of the orchid, so underneath and above the leaves. In my example, I have a flower spike starting right here, so you can see it is located right in between the leaves. In comparison, roots can be produced from any location on the orchid. They can start both from the sides like a flower spike, but also on the front and back of the axis. A flower spike will never be produced on this region of the orchid. Continuing with location, a flower spike will typically be produced underneath the second leaf on a side. So as you can see, we have here one leaf, a second leaf, and beneath it our flower spike. This is not necessarily a rule. You can also have 3 leaves on top, but flower spikes usually do not occur underneath the first leaf. So in my example, somewhere here, it is too high and the orchid is unable to produce flower spikes for the time being in that location. However, roots will not grow on the upper portion of the orchid either. They will either be at the level of the flower spike or lower. Now let's take a closer look at the shape. A flower spike is usually very pointy and quite thin, in comparison to the roots, which are rounded and thick. It is a bit hard to tell when roots or flower spikes first start to poke through the leaf, but if you give them a few days up to a week, you will be able to tell the difference. When a new root sprouts, the tip is usually very rounded, while a flower spike can be very pointy. Taking a side look at the flower spike, you can see what I mean. The tip is quite pointy. The color is not necessarily a good indication, but usually flower spikes are greener and they're not very glossy, while root tips have a glossy appearance to them. As the flower spike starts to grow, you will notice that the tip will have a sort of a mitten-like shape, unlike the roots, which will have a single tip. So if you're not sure in the first days, you can give it another week and the difference will be more visible. Flower spikes are usually produced in the autumn or winter. Drops in temperature usually induces a Phalaenopsis orchid into blooming. Roots can be produced throughout the year, even in the autumn and winter. If your climate is temperate and your orchid is seasoned, flower spikes will usually be produced in autumn, winter, or early spring. A flower spike will usually grow upwards, but it's not necessarily a rule. Most of the times the flower spikes will go up, but sometimes it happens that they will go to one side. Roots, on the other hand, can choose to go upwards, to the side, downwards, wherever they feel like. Flower spikes will tend to grow towards the light source, so let's presume you have a window on this side of the orchid. The flower spike will tend to grow on this direction, while roots can grow anywhere they desire. Even with these signs, it's sometimes hard to tell the difference between the two, and you just need to give them more time. But I can definitely tell you that if you notice a growth on this side of the orchid, it is definitely not a flower spike. Now, in rare occasions, the flower spikes can come from the top, from the crown of the orchid. We call this a terminal spike, but that's a different story. It just means that the orchid will not produce any more leaves in most of the cases, and many times it will start to produce a keiki, either at the base or a flower spike. But that's a different topic, and we'll make a video separately on that as well. And I just hope this video helped you in identifying flower spikes and roots on your orchids. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Please take a moment to rate this video below with a like if you've enjoyed it, and a dislike if you didn't enjoy it. Subscribe to my channel for daily orchid and plants videos. And if you ever want to send me a letter, you have my address down below in the description. I'll see you all next time. Bye! So I know it's autumn right now and the summer blooming Phalaenopsis should not bloom, but my Fasciata decided it's time for another bud, and I really can't complain. But most of my summer blooming Phalaenopsis right now are done with blooming. I think their focus right now will be to produce leaves, and that's fine as well.